What are your feelings about Enoch stuff? So Enoch gets a shout out in the Old Testament. In the line of people descended from Adam through Seth. Because Cain's line doesn't count. Descendant through Seth. It goes on this list, and then it gets to this guy Enoch, who's supposed to be, is he the dad or the grandpa of Noah?
Grandpa is Lamech, is his son.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dad.
So Enoch shows up, one line, and then it says, and he was not, for God took him. Which begs a backstory. Because what is that? So, I spent this week learning a lot about the books of Enoch, which are way different. So here's a rundown. That says First Enoch, and I spelled it wrong again. First Enoch, not Lennox. Okay. First Enoch is what we call an apocalyptic text. Apocalyptic texts are a genre of writing that show up whenever a Jewish or Christian community is in danger of eradication, and then somebody writes a whacked out psychedelic vision of the end times. So examples of apocalyptic literature: Isaiah, chunks of Isaiah, most of Ezekiel, about half of Daniel. The book of Revelation is like the gold standard of apocalyptic literature. And First Enoch, which is not in our Bible, it's not even in the Apocrypha. This thing is so unpopular that the only church that has it in their canon is the Ethiopian Gaia's church. And those guys have everything in their canon. They stick their nose up at nothing. Their canon is like over 100 books. Most Protestants have a 66 book canon, but Ethiopians, like, dude, they're ride or die anything ancient that has anything to do with biblical lands. So, the reason I'm bringing this up right now is I want to get a copy of, I found a complete-ish translation of it, so I can make a bunch of photocopies so that when we get to Daniel, we can actually, like, talk about the features of apocalyptic literature as a genre and explore it in Daniel, which our curriculum, Daniel's 12 chapters. The first 6 are part of our curriculum this year because those are the easy narrative parts. The actual apocalyptic parts are not part of our curriculum, and they weren't 4 years ago either. And it's a travesty, and I'm going to make us talk about it. So I'm going to get us some copies of First Enoch. So here's the thing you got to know about First Enoch. There's like spotty, busted up ancient records of this text, and it talks about this guy Enoch who's so righteous he commands the giants to like back up off the people. And in Third Enoch he gets turned into the angel Metatron, which is my favorite angel name because.
Oh no.
Whoa! Are you okay? What's
Sorry.
he? Oh, that's a straight up chokeable. Is it a magnet?
I think it was.
Yeah. Okay, so there's transcripts of this, ancient manuscripts in Aramaic and in Greek and in Ethiopic. Those are the ones that the Ethiopians have. And there's like some funny ones in Hebrew, but they're like part of the like Talmudic tradition. Anyway, the point is, we've been finding these for the last like 400 years. But the one that has the characters and plot points from the book of Moses doesn't show up until the Dead Sea Scrolls, according to Nibiru. Now, I would like to corroborate this independently, because the only people willing to talk about the similarities between the book of Moses and the Dead Sea Scrolls version of Enoch in terms of characters and plot points are apologists who really want there to be connections. The guys who specialize in just this and don't know about the book of Moses, I can't find on the internet. So, I'm gonna have to buy the manuscripts myself. Okay. Anyway, that's kind of the big revelation. The big point here is that Joseph Smith wrote a thing that not for another 100 years would people be able to associate with Moses, according again to Nibiru. He usually does his homework, but I like to corroborate independently because I've been burned by him before. Anybody have some Enoch stuff you want to share? One of my favorite parts, story beats in the book of Enoch, is God calls him, so he has a theophany. He talks to God, and God says, you're going to go preach to these dudes. And this is a paraphrase, of course. You're going to go preach to these dudes and get them to repent. And he says, but I am just a lad, slow of speech. On the previous page, it says he begat Methuselah at the age of 68. But I guess if everyone else in the story lives to 900, yeah, 68 is probably pretty young. I don't know. The other cool thing about Enoch is, like, his city gets taken up to God. And the thing we talked about with the deacons today was that God weeps. Like, the earth is so violent at this point, we're ramping up into the flood, which is the main thing we're going to talk about later. Because part of what I want to do here is talk about what we're going into this week, so you have that information before you get into the topic, and it's not like last minute stuff you find out in gospel doctrine. The earth is so violent that God is like sad about humanity. They're so violent and so hateful that he weeps. And here's the thing. Who weeps for their children?
Their parents?
Yeah. Like, the answer was in the question. Children. Yeah, it's parents. So here's the thing. Here's just like a subtle thing that you wouldn't notice because we are the recipients of lots of centuries of European Christian indoctrination. At the time of Christ, God is a father. But by the time Roman culture is done with Christianity, God is somewhere between an abstract concept and an emperor. Then the Middle Ages happen. And God is this high, distant thing to be respected from afar, to be bowed to use your most formal language. This is not the Father Jesus was talking about anymore. And so it's kind of, it's a testament to Joseph Smith's connectedness to the early church. To bring back God the Father. Because that was not popular in the 1830s. That is not, the hellfire and brimstone preachers of those revival meetings he went to as a kid were not thinking of a father. They were thinking of a judge, of a divine regulator of the cosmos. It's all very grandiose. But to bring back this idea of God being a father, and also, quite novelly at the time, being a separate dude from Jesus, were just two really big splashes. I want it to be all me, though, so I was kind of hoping you guys would have some cool stuff to say.
I don't have anything cool to say, but most of this, anytime there's someone was 900,
Yeah.
and then what I normally just drop that on the floor
Yeah.
and ignore it.
Do. Yeah, you're
Well,
fine.
Is there any insight you have into what's the point? I mean, like, the way I
Why were they? Yeah. Why write this?
They write it so
Hundreds and
many
hundreds of people dragging brush across the page to make sure you get that
And
message.
it's tedious. These people, I mean, it's not easy to write, and here they are,
Yeah.
like, oh man, we gotta tell everybody he was 68, now he's 900.
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
And on his 150th birthday, he had a kid.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the further
Yeah,
progenitor of
Absolutely.
a prophet throughout.
Like, I get the generational side of it, but yeah, like, why continue to write how old people are? Why does it matter?
So here's what's very cool about that question. I would submit to you, back up, in the story of David and Bathsheba. It starts out with a war. So David is the king. We've now fast forwarded to about here. And it says that there was a war, and David did not go to the war. He sent the general, and it names the general. And in the next verse, it says he stayed in his own house in Jerusalem. And in the next verse, he sees Bathsheba bathing on the roof. That intermittent verse that says he stayed in his own house in Jerusalem. Why put that there if in the next verse he is on his own roof and sees a woman bathing next door? No detail is here by accident. To an ancient audience, the detail that he stayed at home is the red flag. Kings don't stay behind and send others to fight for them. Kings go to the front lines. And so there's a lot of sort of ancient context that we kind of miss out on, and we try to reconstruct it, and we do the best we can. For some reason, in the context of this story, getting from Adam to Noah, these vast amounts of time in the middle are important to the authors. I couldn't tell you why this should be important to us. And a lot of the stuff that is important to them is not important to us. Example, who can be a slave? Right? So it's an interesting question because you've noticed details that seem extraneous, but to someone they're not. And in fact, some people go to great lengths, a lot of people go to great lengths to keep those details in there. I wish I had like the PowerPoint so I could show you a medieval manuscript of the Masoretes. So the Masoretes are this medieval Jewish guild of scribes that preserve the Stuttgart manuscript that I brought in last time. And we have some of the manuscripts they used to create the Stuttgart manuscript. And there's text in the middle, and the margins are black with little tiny notes. We know this is misspelled. Don't change it. It came to us misspelled. This matches this other word that shows up these 3 times in these 3 chapters. Don't mess with it. We think of the Bible as being this sort of haphazard, crazy, rock falling down a hill project that gets stopped every now and then for some evil priest in a dungeon to say, this will lead astray the hearts of men, and make some edit. That is not what's going on. Armies of people doing their best to make sure that whatever was is preserved, even if they have no idea what it is. That's the story. And the story of the Bible is at least as interesting as any story in the Bible. For that reason. Does that help? I know I can't answer your question, but that's kind of the perspective we have to take, where you're reading something, you're like, why did they bother to tell me this? It was a bother, I promise you. Yeah.
Do they not have spaces between words?
Nope. No punctuation. Not until the Masoretes. Yeah. No punctuation. Not until the Masoretes. So this is really interesting. This is a side note about linguistics. One of my favorite things to study when I was going to linguistics school is writing systems, because there are some really cool ones out there. So we have an alphabet, and an alphabet is a system that uses a character to represent a spoken sound. So it's a 3-step process, right? So man equals, here's me saying it, and here's the thing that it is. And then there's the thing that it is, right? So there's nothing intrinsically man about me. That's just a bunch of sounds that our language puts together to describe this, and then I use these shapes to describe that spoken sound. So an alphabet does this by doing one character for one sound. It's a lie. They never do that, but that's the goal. Hebrew uses an abjad. It's an alphabet that doesn't encode vowel sounds. So it's Adam, except that the way Hebrew actually writes it is put a glottal stop here and then cut straight to the end. So in order to read Hebrew, you actually have to know all the words. And you have to know the shapes that those words take. There are way better systems like Chinese. That's a man. It's not a word for man. That's a man. So you don't have to know Chinese to write Chinese, which is why Cantonese and Mandarin speakers can't talk to each other, but they can write to each other. This is some sophisticated stuff. If China is the default setting of humanity, that's fine with me, because they get 1,000 points for just inventing this. Okay. That out of the way, let's do some grammar and vocabulary. Sound cool? Is anybody excited about this? We care about this? Okay.
I'm a nerd.
We're gonna play
That's
Scrabble.
why we're all.
Okay.
I'm a nerd.
We're just gonna do some vocabulary because I want you to be able to spot the differences between Elohim and Jehovah as we go through the text. Because my goal today is to do a huge, like, spoiler bomb of the Noah story. But we gotta know the main characters. Okay, Hebrew is read this way. This letter, I'm just gonna write the sounds. This is a glottal stop. It's not really a letter. L, H, it's kind of a Y sound and an M. So what we're saying is Elohim. Now, I want to draw your attention to this. The yim, the yim, that's a plural marker in Hebrew. Okay? Now you can add stuff to this. So if I were to put this symbol, another one of these, that's a ha, that's an article, the. So if I were to say ha Elohim, that's the Elohim. Now what's Elohim? And why is it plural? You guys ever meet somebody named Dennis or Chris?
Yeah.
Did you get the sense that Chris was just many Chris put together and you got confused because he had an S at the end of his name? No, sometimes words just look plural and they're not. So I used to get asked about this all the time. They're like, oh, what's up with the plural ending? Why does it have to be plural? There are times when you will see this in the Old Testament and it's spelled out plural and then all the verbs that go with it are singular. Like there's no reason to think it's actually plural. In Genesis, there's every reason to think that it's plural because God is always saying, like, we will do stuff. Like, God always talks to God's self in the plural. Anyway, that's the. This idea, this H sound, ha, article, is going to be hugely important when we get to Job. And ha-satan, the Satan, shows up. It's not a devil. Okay. Elohim. Let's cruise on over here. Mitzrayim. It's a word for Egypt. Mitzrayim. This is the word for Egypt. And when God at the burning bush tells Moses that he will battle against the gods of the Egyptians, he literally says, Ha Elohim, Ha Mitzrayim, the gods of the Egyptians. This, to put two thes, is how they make of. Hebrew doesn't have a word for of. You have this construct format where both of the, like if it's this of that, then both things get a the at the beginning. Side note, you and I, because of our European Christianity baggage, have this idea that this God is the real one and all the others are made up. That is not the perspective of the people living in the Old Testament. That is not the perspective of God in the Old Testament. Because he talks about the gods of the Egyptian like he's going to stomp their asses flat as if they were real dudes. 100%. Okay. This is just a super straightforward word. Like, there's not like magical stuff to go into this. It's this element here, El, is God, and then it's set up as a plural. Sometimes it's a plural, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's Bible God, sometimes it's other gods. It's always the same word. This is where things get interesting. This is roughly Jehovah. Jehovah is very Englishy way to say this. It would be pronounced something like Yahweh or Yahweh, but a lot of groups really don't like to say the word. They find it disrespectful to say the name of God. And so out of respect for them, you will often hear me call it the Tetragrammaton. That's the technical Greek term for this name. It's like saying the character name. You could also, people you also hear sometimes say Adonai, my Lord, or Hashem, the name. Remember this? Hashem, the name. There's that article again.
So is that like the word, like what John used, or?
It's the name. What they're doing is they're avoiding saying the name. So they're like, the name that we don't all say. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. She who must be obeyed. Does that help? That's classic, dude. I love those Alan Quartermain books for real. Okay, so you'll probably hear me use this word. This word is not, like, I know my audience, so we can use this word. I wouldn't expect anybody to go around saying these just because it's like not part of our cultural, yeah, this is like a super Jewish way to do it, and this is like kind of a Jewish way to do it that evangelicals try to use on social media to sound cool and sell you oils. So I'll bounce back and forth between these two. Okay, but here's the thing. It's made up of really only 3 characters. There's this yes sound. There's this ha sound. There's this, it's like a V or a W, it depends on what pronunciation scheme you use, and then another one of these. This is that same character that makes the ha, by the way. Yeah, well, okay. Here's what I really want to tell you about this. Oh, this is such a cool word. It's a verb. This is just a noun, a plural noun at that. This is a nominalized verb. Here's what I mean. Okay. Think about a weaver. This is like a job description, right? But at its heart, it's a verb. This is the one who weaves. You with me so far? Okay. I love to show this to people because it demonstrates the amount of linguistic information that can be packed into 4 characters. This is third person, so he, singular, causative, of be. Okay, let's go through this one thing at a time. Third person singular. He does it. Causative is something that bears some explaining. So think about verbs like enrage, enthrone, enable. You don't do these verbs, you do them to someone. Okay, this is how we encode this in English. You put an en at the beginning. Enable. And what are some other examples? I always use those same 3 examples. Encourage. Oh, tasty.
Entrust.
Yeah. Entrust. Okay. You are putting this on someone. Okay? The verb root here at the bottom of Jehovah's name is to cause something to happen. But the thing that happens is being.
So he causes existence?
Existence driver. That's a valid way to translate this word. The existence maker, the driver, the thing that causes to be. It causes being. And so, at the burning bush, when he says, I am that I am, it's this amazing sort of, it's like almost a poem, like a fortune cookie poem. It's super concise, it's almost terse how concise it is. And what he's saying is, I am that which causes all amming to be. It's pretty slick. It's pretty cool stuff. So that is just like when you see this word, it'll pop up. Crucially, this word is going to pop up all throughout the Bible. It's everywhere. Hey, buddy. But what does this being say at the burning bush to Moses? When Moses says, who shall I say has sent me? He says, I am that I am. And never at any time have I revealed my name to your fathers. Ugh, false. This dude's talking nonstop during the Noah and the flood story. What that tells us is that this is the name for God in one century, or some centuries. This is the name for God in other centuries. And the ancient editors are talking to each other. Do we have anything we want to say about this? Any questions about this? before I move on to the heavy hitting stuff.
A version of that I am that I am.
Uh-huh.
You told me before is I be to cause being.
I be to cause being, yes.
That I am to cause amming like makes sense, and that I be to cause being for some reason clicks better for me.
Thank you. You also see people translate this in the future to say, I will be that I will be. It's because Hebrew doesn't have tenses, it has aspect, so something is either done or not done. End of things, you can frame stuff in time. They don't have past, present, future like we have. They have, it's squishy, which is what makes Isaiah such a pain to translate. You never know if that guy's talking about the present, the past, or the future. Yeah, I be to cause being. I love that. That's great. You get a wife raise.
It just is the one from my lessons. It was still your
I
idea.
mean,
It was-
we're going in the right direction.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's what makes teamwork.
yeah.
Okay. This is also cool because if you like take a screenshot of this, the Jehovah's Witnesses come to your door and they'll be like, hey, do you know what Jehovah means? And then you can tell them, which is just a satisfying moment. Okay. I talked about how like people from different centuries are talking to each other. Let's talk about who. Imagine you're sitting in a restaurant and you're awkwardly not talking to each other for extended periods of time, but you're listening to the conversations around you. If you listen long enough, you can start to discriminate the voices, right? And you can start to determine, okay, you let him through.
Put the fence up.
Oh, he had to back up. That was his train. That's his train pusher. He had to back up a little. The other day when he was doing this. He's going around the house, and she says, "Hey, come here," and he goes, and then just listens for whatever she's gonna say. Okay. If you're listening long enough, you can start to tell the voices and the topics they talk about. So this dude in the 19th century named Wellhausen writes a book where he poses the documentary hypothesis. I should point out this does not dictate or really influence biblical scholarship today as much as it did 200 years ago, but pieces of it are still used. So here's the basics. If you are reading through the text in Hebrew, you will find different voices that show up using different names for God and different vocabulary as if they come from a different century. And they will do stuff in patterns. So for example, there's J, we call this one J, used to call this one J, because they always use Jehovah. There's Elohim, this person always uses Elohim. The Deuteronomist, this person is in Deuteronomy, you don't have to worry about him a lot. And the priestly source. This dude is always showing up, talking over this guy, but is always talking about stuff that only a priest would care about. Priestly authority, ritual cleanliness, animal sacrifice. So you end up with a lot of these situations where E is just telling a story, just got your folk story going on, this regular weird Bible stuff, nothing to see here. And then P shows up and was like, yeah, but they had to be worthy, and they sacrificed an animal. And then he'll disappear and this will continue. And you get the sense that this person is showing up at a later century to sort of talk over or tune up whatever this person's narrative is. This person we don't super believe in anymore. We think that these two might actually just be different flavors of this one, and it's really just these two all the time. But anyway, this was hot stuff 200 years ago, but it's not as influential now. But I want you to know about it because remember I said last week, if you are reading in any English translation of the Bible and you see the word Lord, capital L, is this one. And God, why am I using two black markers? God, with a capital G, is this one. Let's go to the Noah and the Ark story.
What are you gonna be reading from?
Well, I got a JPS in one hand and an NRSV in the other hand. I figure somebody here has
I've got a King James.
a King James. Let's actually do it in the King James because the stitches, the seams that we're looking where the pieces have been stitched together, they're super clear thanks to King James' insistence on keeping Jehovah and Elohim strictly separated. Okay. Smash that like button. Okay. Will you? Yeah. I think it's 7. Hang on. Is it 7 or is it 8?
Wait, is it?
It's 7. I'm looking for the whole start of the boat narrative.
We have 6 is the wickedness of human. That's where that starts off. Then Noah's to please God, and pretty much that's where they're going through.
Okay.
It's
So
like-
the Great Flood that starts.
Okay.
Well, no, that's the flood, but not the building of the boat. You gotta go before that, where he tells them, hey, you need to do this.
Okay. Go to 6:11. Somebody.
Here's King James.
Yeah.
The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. Let me keep going.
Yeah.
And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt. For all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth.
Okay. Wait. Time out. Who looked upon all the earth?
God.
Okay. That's who's talking. Keep going.
And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make thee an ark of gopher wood. Room shalt thou make.
I think it's Cyprus.
Yeah, so like this
Is that what it says?
It says, make self an ark of cypress wood.
Yeah. Dude, okay. Time out. King James names for stuff, like plant names, they're usually guesses. Like if they're ever naming a plant or like a medicine or an oil or something, these are like medieval Englishmen. They don't know anything. Which is why they call so much of Africa, they call Ethiopia. Like non-Ethiopia parts of Africa. And also they think that Turkey is Asia. Okay. Will you fast forward to... Okay. Skip forward to 18, will you?
Yeah. But with thee will I establish my covenant, and thou shalt come into the ark, thou and thy sons, and thy wife, and thy sons' wives with thee.
Okay.
And of every living thing, of all flesh, 2 of every sort, shalt thou bring into the ark, and keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female.
Okay. 2 of each. Okay.
Yeah, when you go to chapter 7, it changes the whole narrative over there.
Yeah. Actually, pick it up from 7, will you?
I can do that. So it says, then the Lord said to Noah.
Wait.
This is what?
A new God talking.
Yeah. What's
Okay.
And our RSV.
Yeah, I'm reading the NRSV.
Dang, that's perfect.
It also
Okay.
says Lord and King.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's right.
Yeah.
It's right. Keep going.
So go into the ark, you and all your household, for I have seen that you alone are righteous before me in this generation. Take with you 7 pairs of all clean animals, the male and its mate, and a pair of the animals that are not clean, the male and its mate, and 7 pairs of the birds of the air, also male and female, to keep their kind alive on the face of the earth. For in 7 days I will send rain on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights, and every living thing that I have made I will blot out from the face of the ground. And Noah did all the Lord had commanded him.
Keep going. Oh, yeah, by all means, please.
Yeah, and then, okay. Noah was 600 years old when the flood of the waters came on the earth. And Noah with his sons and his wives and his sons' wives went into the ark to escape the waters of the flood. Of clean animals and the animals that are not clean, and the birds of birds, and of everything that creeps on the ground, 2 and 2, male and female, went into the ark with Noah, as God had commanded Noah.
We just switched back.
Yeah. And yeah, there you go. And after 7 days, the water of the flood came on the earth.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. The word God bookends P's incursion into E's telling of the story. You see it, right? E is telling us, yeah,
These are different, what?
sources, different things that got clipped into the Bible.
Okay.
We talk about them as if they're individual dudes, but they could be traditions. They could be schools of thought. They could be whole clans of monks that each have their own different century and their own different agenda. And P's agenda is typically to jump in the middle of E trying to say anything, inject a bunch of stuff that only a priest would care about, and then dip out. So,
seven animals of unclean or clean or whatever nonsense.
yeah.
And E comes back and says, it's just 2.
Yeah, it's 2. Yeah, so E is saying 2 of 2, and then P pops in to say, oh, well, you gotta have animals that you can sacrifice and you can eat, and then those other ones, whatever, you gotta have those. And then it just shuts off. And E is talking again, and it was always just 2.
So I had a question.
Yeah.
So it's like, before all that, there's like a chapter in chapter 6, and it goes into like, so the Lord said, I will blot out from the earth the humans I have created, people together with animals and creepy things and birds of the air. So, for I am sorry that I have made them. Then it's just like the next chapter is, nah, let's load them
We'll
up
fix
onto
it.
a boat and
Yep.
don't worry about it.
And-
so like, that's like,
In the Enuma Elish, no. Is it Gilgamesh? So remember, these are in conversation with Babylonian texts that serve the same purpose in their culture. In the Babylonian version, I think it is Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh has like his best friend Enkidu, and Enkidu dies. And Gilgamesh gets so bummed out, he wanders in the woods until he finds Noah. Except the Babylonian version of Noah is called Utnapishtim the Immortal, which I love. And he's like, dude, how come you and your wife are immortal? And he says, well, let me tell you. One time, the gods said that humans were too noisy and they flooded the earth and killed everyone. But not me, because I'm really good at boat building. And then apparently immortality was like his boon from the gods for surviving the flood in their version of the story. So yeah, no, it's choppy. It's choppy because one of the most hurtful, harmful dogmas about the Bible is its univocality. People believe that it's all one thing, it's one book, speaking with one voice to achieve one agenda, and typically that one agenda is to tell the story of Christ. But there are people writing in there who do not care about or know about Christ. There are a lot of people talking over each other and just trying to share what they know, which I submit to you is why, 2 chapters before this, giants randomly show up for no reason, never to be heard from again.
well, that's, I think, what, like, if you go, the wickedness of humans, that's how, this is played out, but it's like going into the aspect of, oh, you know, the angels were coming down, mating with humans, making the Nephilim.
Yeah.
And God's like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
What is that?
Now, what is
Yeah.
that? I don't like that, so I'm just gonna wipe everything clean. Then
Yeah.
Noah was like, well, you're a purist, so we're gonna go ahead and just save you and restart the humankind with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And you will see God starting over a couple, like Eve. Was God making a bunch of stuff and then being like, something's missing? If you're reading it in Hebrew, the story of the creation that's told is a God who's throwing stuff at the wall until something sticks. Here's the thing. I think there's a great deal of humanity in that. I don't necessarily believe, for my part, for my devotional relationship with the Bible, that that's necessarily how God is. But I think it's important that somebody tell me that's how they think God is. Because how I think God is probably not a big enough piece of the puzzle to be worth anything. And hearing those different perspectives is very valuable to me. I heard this interesting thing. I was listening to a podcast about the contradictions in the New Testament between the 4 Gospels. And the guy was talking about Origen. So Origen is like a big time early Christian writer. He's like one of the first academics to write about Christianity. And he wrote about how he believed that the four Gospels disagree with one another so that nobody could read it literally. He believes it's a divine inclusion to force people from believing that they have to take the four Gospels and smash them together into some super gospel that tells the truth. When you do that, you just are forcing whatever you want to see onto what these four different authors are trying to do. And I think the same goes for the Old Testament. The authors are trying to achieve something. They're trying to tell us something about their world, but it's not one guy telling us about their world. It's a bunch of different people at any moment. And being able to judge those themes, see who is interrupting and why, is a valuable skill, I think. Cool shout out. Questions? Concerns? Is anyone concerned that I am a minion of Satan that is trying to destroy your faith in the Bible? Here's the thing, if you... Not a no!
Maybe we believe you're a minion of Satan, but not for.
Oh, okay, not for that reason. Yeah, okay, love it. Love that.
We haven't gotten to that chapter.
My Hebrew teacher, his name was Bakavoy, David Bakavoy. He studied biblical Hebrew at BYU and then went on to Brandeis University, which is a big Jewish school. How he got in is a mystery for his master's. His Hebrew professor at BYU told him to not get mixed up in this, the documentary hypothesis, on the grounds that it would rob him of his faith. Yeah, it's on my list of reasons Micah will never go to BYU. I feel that understanding like how this kind of stuff works is key to seeing the truth of the text and how it impacts it. Okay, we got time for one more thing. So this is Noah, we're going into it. Go back, where's the list of Noah's kids? That's in 6, I think. Yeah, tiny pages.
The 3 sons.
The 3 sons. Oh yeah, give me the list.
So it's Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
Yeah. Okay. Shem,
Yeah, Shem, Ham.
Ham, and Japheth. Okay. Side note,
The word?
name.
Name.
The name. It just means name. It's a total placeholder.
So they don't know it.
Yeah, or here's the thing, names in Hebrew play a part in the story. So in our culture, names just have to be a unique sound, which is how people arrive at my favorite name I found when I worked for an insurance company. Jaslyn. It's just gotta be sounds. In American culture, it has to be a random collection of sounds that the mom's sister or cousins haven't already used. But there are these older names like Grace. It's an abstract concept before it's a name. Okay, so if my mother-in-law says God gave me grace, my sister-in-law's name is Grace, the sentence becomes ambiguous. Is it the girl or the abstract concept? I'll always think of her as a 13-year-old. She's about to get married. She's not a girl anymore.
I don't know.
Okay. Names be doing that. So like Jacob, for example. I cannot wait to talk about Jacob with you guys because his whole arc is just...
Mom.
Jacob means supplanter. It's like a way of saying switcheroo. Like switcheroo guy is how you should think of it. And his whole story is marked by switcheroos, like dramatic reversals. So the name is going to play a role in the story. But crucially, the order. Why this order? Every time these guys are named, it is this order. By convention, eldest to youngest. Okay? Let's keep that in mind. Where was that?
Where,
The list of guys, yeah.
It was 10.
610? Is that what it was?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just want to show you guys something really funny that's going to pop up. Okay, so after the flood, they get off and something really weird happens in Noah's tent. And it is, okay, it's actually in chapter 8. Can somebody pick up from 18? Chapter 8, verse 18.
I can.
Please.
And Noah went forth, and his sons, and his wife, and his sons' wives with them. Every beast, every creepy thing, and every fowl, and whatsoever creepeth upon the earth after their kinds, went forth out of the ark.
Are you in chapter 8, 18? Okay. My 19 is missing. Okay, let's go to 9. Here's the problem. Can we do 9:19? 9:18, I'm sorry. 9:18. Yeah, I gave you the wrong chapter.
And the sons of Noah that went forth of the ark were Shem and Ham and Japheth, and Ham is the father of Canaan. And these are the 3 sons of Noah. None of them was the whole earth overspread.
Okay, again, they are named in the exact order, and we get the detail that Ham is the father of Canaan. Okay, please keep going.
And Noah began to be a husbandman, and he planted a vineyard. He drank of the wine, and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his 2 brothers without. And Shem and Japheth took a garment, and laid it upon both their shoulders, and went backwards, and covered the nakedness of their father. And their faces were backward, and they saw not their father's nakedness. And Noah awoke from the wine, and knew what his younger son had done unto him.
Okay, younger son is a funny misstep in the King James. It should be youngest son.
Okay.
So, something weird happens. Ham is supposed... This is so insane. Ham is supposed to have seen his father naked. Party foul, apparently. There's no, this doesn't correspond to anything in later Hebrew culture. We don't know what's going on. This could be a euphemism for any number of things. We have no idea. He sees his father's nakedness, and then these 2, they go and they throw a blanket on him. When he wakes up from his drunken stupor, he sees what his youngest son had done. Does anybody see the problem?
So they covered him with a blanket?
Japheth is the youngest son, not Ham. Okay, keep going though. In 25, he says,
He said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants.
What?
He be unto his brethren.
okay,
Yeah.
so this dude sees his dad naked. These guys throw a blanket on him. The text now blames it on this guy, and then Noah gets mad at his own grandson. It's not univocal, right? It's not telling one cohesive story. There's funky details that end up when you are telling a story centuries or even millennia after the fact. I once read this amazing write-up. There's this guy in Japan in the 1820s who wrote a history of the United States. Now think about how much history the United States had in the 1820s. This guy had never been to America, and in fact had never talked to anyone who had been to America. He had read books by people who spoke to people who had been to America. So his entire history of the United States was 3rd and 4th hand. Okay, he tells the story of the revolution thusly. He couldn't quite remember who the Americans were fighting against, so he substituted the British with demon monkeys. So there's this amazing moment. It's woodblock illustrations, 2 gorgeous woodcuts. And Thomas Jefferson and a bunch of other guys are riding horses into these armies of demon monkeys. And at one point, Benjamin Franklin, who, Japanese woodcut Benjamin Franklin has the same hair as real Benjamin Franklin. Freak accident. They got it right by accident. There's a scene of him literally holding a cannon and shooting an eagle.
Is it shooting?
Shooting at an eagle because they had to subdue the eagle so they could get the snake that was poisoning all of Jefferson's crops. Anyway, when you are not from, this is going to come back in a big way when we get to the book of Daniel, because Daniel suffers all of these same problems. If your stuff is being put together by somebody who's not 100% sure what they're putting together, you'll get weird stuff like this. So just be on the lookout. If you were from the evangelical end of the spectrum, where the Bible's not allowed to disagree with itself, this would be a huge theological problem for you. But if it's the Word of God, as far as it's translated correctly, there's room for stuff to go off the rails and we can laugh it off. Thank God for that.
And I think the rest of that chapter is just like how this is read out is like he sends his grandson to become a slave,
Yeah.
and pretty much then it goes, after the flood Noah lived 350 years, all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died. Then it just moves on.
Yeah.
It's not like,
Yeah.
okay, so what happened to that part of the story?
Yeah.
Like, did he
Yeah.
I think a lot of these stories too are not necessarily like 100% spiritual epiphanies. These
Yeah.
could be, oh, well, here's
This is
why
the history of a nation.
the history of these people were like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is what we call etiology. It's origin stories. On the edge of the Dead Sea, there's a bunch of salt pillars. In the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, Lot and his family leave, and his wife looks back, and a jealous God turns into a salt pillar. Is that how all those geologic formations formed? Probably not. But in the world of the storytelling, yeah, you know why there's all that scary stuff out there? Those are dudes God hates. Don't go over there. Like, it served a purpose. And learning about that purpose and the way they use those stories is incredible.
Do you think they put it this way just to justify slavery, or?
No, they'll justify slavery using much more sophisticated tools later on. No, they did this because they didn't know what they were doing.
Okay.
This is just a mess. This is somebody this is not even, we can't even pin this on like a bad translation. Somebody just lost the thread.
There's the guy who was up really late
Yes.
transcribing or whatever.
Do you know what is so interesting? People who study manuscripts have to study the types of errors that handwriting engenders. So there's a whole taxonomy, a whole list of names for sleepy guy duplicated a word. Guy skipped a line and then had to go back and fill it in. Like every type of error handwriting something you could make, there's a name for that class, like it's family of errors. And it's funny too, not for nothing. Protestant Christianity has always existed beside the printing press. Catholic Christianity has had the printing press for like a quarter of its lifetime. And that's so we joke about how like Catholics don't read the Bible, and they'll be like, yeah, we have stained glass. Why would we read this thing? Like nobody had it for 2.5 millennia or for 1.5 millennia. It's actually like the joke is rooted in some pretty important traditions and the way each group thinks about scripture. The end. It truly was a Bible miracle.
There's no way they just swapped Ham and Japheth.
As the youngest son?
Yeah, like if you swap Ham and Japheth, I think the story holds.
Yeah, but then why curse a guy who wasn't there? Like I'm with you. I would love that. But like,
So if Shem's name means name, what are the other?
Suffer for the sins of your
I don't
father.
remember.
Yeah.
I used to know.
Susan, you're-
Oh, and I
Like,
don't
you
have
suffer
the.
for the sins of your father.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Look, I was plastered.
Oh,
Just
don't make me enter that password.
You guys covered me up. I got extra hot.
I'm
Boom.
gonna find out.
Guess what, grandson? You're now a slave. In the story, then I'm going to die.
Also, another random question. Do we assume Noah had way more children if he lived that long?
Oh,
Did his wife live that long?
I don't know.
so that's
There are
another thing.
questions
You
Is
I
wiped
don't
out
wanna
the earth,
touch.
you have to repopulate it.
You're also assuming a flood that covered the entire land of the earth actually happened.
happened. True.
That's a
I saw a TikTok, it was a girl song, and she's like, I just realized that God probably told the snails about Noah's flood before they even told Noah so that they could be there. And she was just sobbing hysterically. Oh gosh.
I don't know if you like when reading the chapters before, it's like, it's like, hey, this guy lived 120 years old and had this important character to the story. Then he lived to like 600 and something. And he had some more kids as the thing. So it's like, those kids weren't noteworthy at all. So it's just like, we're just gonna name the important ones, then everybody else is just like lost to history.
The inheritor ones.
Oh, yeah.
There's a reason we don't have Cain's genealogy. We have Seth's genealogy.
Right.
There's no need to keep track of people who don't have.
Yeah, it's like this one. When Enoch had lived
So,
65 years.
I'm conflicted about that.
Hot sunburn and
Jacob needs enlargement.
maybe in a big.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I mean,